Hello, I'm Chris Stafford, and this is Art, the podcast where we get to know women from around the world of visual arts.
If you don't feel it, I'll make you feel it. I'll show you what I mean. If you don't feel it, I'll make you feel it. I'll bring you to your knees. If you follow me.
My guest this week is Director of Photography and Cinematographer Hannah Epstein, who has been with the National Football League since 2012 and is the first female camera operator on the staff. Hannah was born in Pennington, New Jersey in 1990 to Terry, a writer and artist, and Jonathan, a lawyer. She has a brother Harrison who works in finance. In her youth, Hannah was a keen sportswoman and played on lacrosse and basketball teams. She became fascinated with cameras at an early age, vigorously studying the fine art of still photography, which proved the foundation for her film career. She attended Middlebury College in Vermont, which had a film and media culture, and where she also enjoyed cinema studies. Hannah also spent a semester in Ireland, where she produced music videos, and in 2005, Hannah volunteered for an Israel lacrosse organization, coaching kids and filming the program's under-19 women's team. Back in the US, Hannah interned in the camera department of the NFL, which led to her current position as staff cinematographer. She was DP for HBO's Hard Knocks training camp and DP on the TV series Earning It and Abby's Place and on 30 for 30. When she is not on the road with NFL films, Hannah is working with her parents' dog Winnie in agility training or taking still photos for fun. She lives in Haddon Heights, New Jersey. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell us where you are now and what you're doing, because you were telling me earlier that it's a year-round busy schedule for you with the NFL. You always think it's going to be busy just during the season, but it's all year round for you.
It is. Today, I'm lucky to be home enjoying my house, but I just came back from Las Vegas where we were filming some behind the scenes leading up to the halftime show for this year's Super Bowl. But yeah, we in addition to filming games on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays, we shoot so many different documentary series now that we are busy all year round. So the schedule for us as cinematographers really varies week to week, and we don't generally know what's coming down the pike until that week. So it just depends which shoots come up and who wants us on what project from the director's standpoint, and we go from there.
Now, when you're shooting the games themselves, though, which camera are you on? Tell our audience exactly what that means, because they might think, oh, well, you're just following the ball.
Right. So NFL Films is covering the games for archival purposes and also to support the documentary series that we're putting out every year. So we have different camera positions. Every game has a ground camera and a top camera, and those cameras are responsible for strictly following the ball on every single play. They are the safety net of showing every play ever played in the NFL, right? And then we have additional cameras that are kind of the icing on the cake, whether it's a traditional, what we call weasel camera, and they're showing the game from an artistic perspective anywhere from other than on the field. And then we have wire cameras who are just following a specific player who are mic'd up. And then we have sync sound cameras who are getting bench sound with a boom operator. What I get to do is a very special position. It's the footage that really made me want to work at NFL Films. So I feel very fortunate to be one of the people capturing those images now, which is kind of an artistic perspective of the game action itself from the sidelines. So I'm shooting the action and the players, but I'm not tied to following the ball on every play. I can if I want to, but I'm really more interested in capturing moments of emotion, be it good or bad. Getting sweat dripping down people's faces, getting the collision of the tackles at the line of scrimmage, getting the ball just into the quarterback's hands when the ball snapped, just little details like that. And I shoot on a long lens, generally an 85 to 300 with a 2x extender. And I generally choose to shoot at 120 frames per second.
And how many cameras then is going to be covering a game? You mentioned them all there. How many does that amount to?
It truly depends on the game, and the executives and the directors in our building choose which game is the most important each week. So some games will only have those minimum 2 cameras, while others might have 5. If you're at a game that's filming for our show Hard Knocks, which is on HBO, you might have 12 cameras because those are character-driven stories. So we have multiple characters mic'd up and multiple action cameras and multiple bench cameras. So that's kind of a totally different beast than regular game coverage.
Now, does this mean that you have to have an intimate knowledge of the sport, Hannah? Because I know from my background, I come from equestrian sport and I've been covering it for years. I was fortunate to have that knowledge background of the sport because that's where I came from. Is that essential when you're doing the type of shooting that you're doing for the game?
That's a really good question. Honestly, Chris, I get made fun of by some of the people I work closely with because I came in really not having a deep knowledge of the game. My knowledge has grown exponentially over the past 10 years, I'm happy to say. And the more you know the game, the more it helps. For my position, again, I think it's like the more I know about the game, technically speaking, the more my intuition is going to lead me to a great shot because I can kind of anticipate the flow of the game or who's having a good game or what plays might be necessary on 4th down. I hesitate to say this because I think other people wouldn't want to hear it, but I think you can get away with not knowing everything about the game itself, but it certainly helps. I think my shooting has improved tremendously the more I've gained knowledge of the game. But at the same time, those shots that are full of emotion and art and looking for nice light to set the stage of the game, those don't necessarily need as much technical knowledge of football.
Right. That's what I was thinking because you are going for the artistic shots, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's almost, I feel like what I'm shooting is almost more having a connection to the human response in sport than the sport itself. And I do feel like I have a very, very good sense of that because I was an athlete myself.
Yes. So I know you had a passion for sport as well. And is that why you chose to go this route with your photography, Hannah?
Yes, it is. So I played lacrosse. I played basketball in high school as well, but I played lacrosse up through college, and was looking for an internship. And honestly, so many of my friends were taking the finance route and they know exactly where to apply and exactly what they're going to be doing during the summer and how they're going to get their first job. So I was scrambling, trying to find internships for the summer. And I found out that NFL Films was only an hour from my parents' house. And they have this great internship program that's very, very focused. So you can apply to exactly which department you want to work in. And I was drawn to NFL Films because of the way that they made football look. They made it look like art. It wasn't just like what you see on the broadcast.
And having that passion for the sport as well, it really takes you into the whole atmosphere of the game, doesn't it? And that's what you're living off, right? You're living and breathing the atmosphere, that, the ambience of it all. And of course, the crowd's response too, because they're heavily attended games. I mean, this is a sport which is, mainstream here in the US and very, very heavily attended. Do you really, kind of get into the game itself, or do you find you have to be one step removed from the action in terms of the outcome? I mean, the result and how the game is going.
Yeah, I think I tend to be one step removed. I honestly mostly hope for what I'm filming to be a good game, a close game, a competitive game, because again, that competition drives those emotional moments and excitement from fans and those really beautiful storytelling shots of human faces. And that's what I love to see. When you get a game that's a blowout, you don't get any of that. So the one time that I do find myself hoping for a particular outcome is when we're filming a specific player for a show where, you know, we're following them the whole season. I am usually biased in hoping that they do well with their team. Yeah.
You're invested then for the outcome, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the beginning then, and where all this enthusiasm for sport started. You're a New Jersey girl through and through. Tell us a little bit about your family, your background, and what childhood looked like for you.
Sure. I would say I grew up in a pretty traditional household in a beautiful suburban town. My dad is a lawyer, still practicing. He's a lawyer and litigator working on large commercial real estate deals. My mom was a writer for Philadelphia Magazine. She left Philadelphia Magazine to be at home with me and my brother. My brother is a couple of years older than me. But then she went back to art school. She went to the College in New Jersey to get her BFA while we were growing up. And I have all these very, very vivid memories of these, like screen memories of these tiny little moments of her doing her art for school, like working on her color theory project where she's cutting up these little pieces of paper to make these color chips, to show how the eye shifts the way it sees color based on what's around it. And her building sculptures out of tree trunks in the garage and sketching her slippers or our living room or the dog. So there was always art floating around our home. And I think my brother and I were influenced by that. We both got into photography at a pretty young age. I think I was in middle school, and my brother was already taking kind of an extracurricular after school program class. And then I saved up babysitting money so that I could buy myself a camera as well. And actually that first camera was a Nikon, Chris. And
good choice there. And then we should mention Harrison is your brother and Terry is your mom and Jonathan is your dad.
Yes. But so going back a few steps, my dad is also, he was a big athlete. He played football through college, and athletics have always been a huge part of his life and his extended family. So my dad really pushed this athletic side of me, and my mom really pushed this. I shouldn't say pushed. They pulled out the desire for athletics and arts within me. And I like to think that I became this wonderful culmination of both of my parents' influences leading into this career, which is this marriage of sport and art. But let's go back. So I got my camera, and I just remember I started taking summer camp classes, and they were very basic. I mean, learning truly every manual mode of the camera and what aperture meant and what shutter meant and what ISO was. And we were developing our own film in the darkroom and doing our own prints. And I loved that process. Absolutely loved it. But I have these memories of just going for walks in our little neighborhood park with my camera and taking pictures and carrying around this little notebook with an otter on it and writing down all of my settings for each frame, because, that it was 35 millimeters. So there was no metadata. And I would get so confused with aperture. Like, did the little number mean a lot of light or not a lot of light? Did the big number mean a lot was in focus or nothing was in focus? So I was like constantly switching my aperture and my shutter speeds and writing it down and then looking at what I got printed to learn what that meant.
I love that. Tell us what town that was then you grew up.
Pennington, New Jersey. Very small town just outside of Princeton. It's beautiful.
So you really immersed yourself then in the process from the start.
I did. I loved it. I didn't really know how to get the image that I wanted to get at that point. I was really experimenting and then seeing what settings created what look and where I was on the lens to get what look, and then just learning from that process.
And what about sport then? How did you put those two together? Did you go out and photograph competitions, events, games?
No, so I did not capture sports until I started to dabble in it in college, with the football team and the field hockey team. But that was really just like, oh, I have a friend on the team and they asked for some pictures. So I went out and took some, but I wasn't doing it like with a professional goal in mind at all. I honestly, until I was at NFL Films, I don't think I really understood that this could be a profession. I think when I went into the internship, honestly, it was like I felt like I was supposed to get an internship somewhere. That was kind of the next step in life. And I thought it was just going to be something that was really fun to do for a summer. And obviously it took off and turned into something else.
It certainly did. So now you are still actually using a still camera for fun.
I am, yeah.
So let's go back to school then. What else were you doing in school apart from sport, playing basketball and lacrosse?
Well, in high school, I was fortunate that we had photography classes offered. So I took still photography classes every year, as did my brother. And we had this incredible teacher, Eileen Holmuth-Lemonek. You should look up her work. She's great. And she just got us really excited about photography and our projects. And that was really the foundation for my technical experience going into what I do now, because it all translates into the moving image. And then in college, I kind of by happenstance ended up in this freshman seminar that was about film. And I don't even remember what it was called, but it was basically a class that was utilizing one subject to practice the art of writing. And mine was focused on film. And I loved the teacher so much, and the subject of watching films and discussing them, that I ended up being a film major. And it was not a technical program. It was a small liberal arts college, Middlebury College, which was wonderful. But my technical experience really, again, came from the photography background. And then I did a study abroad semester through Tisch NYU, which was in Dublin. And that was all music video production. And that was an awesome experience.
And what kind of things were you taking away from that experience then? And also, I want to talk about when you went to Israel and spent time out there. Mm-hmm. I'm curious as to what your takeaways were from those experiences, Anna.
Sure. Well, this all kinds of intertwines into where I am today, because I first applied for my internship at NFL Films, I think after my sophomore year, and they said, well, you really need more technical production experience. Why don't you're a little young. Why don't you go out and get more experience and come and apply again next year? So that's what pushed me to find the Tisch program. I did that my junior year. And that program was really where I came to realize that like the position of a DP was a thing. And that, you know, you could make a movie purely focused on making every frame beautiful. We watched this one film called Hunger, which was about the hunger strikes in Northern Ireland, and it was shot so beautifully. I just remember this one frame that was like this macro shot wide open of a fly on a guy's hand. And it was like that moment, as weird as that sound, where I was like, oh my gosh, that is stunning. And it was kind of like realizing that my still photography was going to expand into the moving image.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. This gets you all excited. It gets me all excited. At what point in your career then? I mean, you were still right in your early 20s at that point?
Yeah.
You were thinking, okay, this is where I want to really focus on, no pun intended, but which area of photography you wanted to go toward?
Yeah, I think it was during that time with the Tisch program. I came back from that music video program realizing that I wanted to focus my track on camera work. And that was an opportunity for me to shoot. Like I got to shoot so many other students' films in that program and get that practice. And then when I came back, I reapplied for the internship at NFL Films. And actually the first time I applied for it, I had signed up for the editing track. And so this time when I came back, I knew I wanted to be in the camera department. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise that I did not get that internship when I did, because that might have thrown my life in a completely different direction.
Did you enjoy the editing process?
I did. I loved it. And I think I used to run around with, I had a Sony Handycam on mini DV, and I would run around with that and just film all the mundane things in my life, my pets, my friends, my family eating lobster. And I would just love putting that into the computer on iMovie and eventually Final Cut and playing with the editing process. But I came to realize that I loved the filming process more.
And then what?
And then what? And then I finally, on my third attempt applying for the NFL Films internship, I finally got accepted into the camera department. I definitely was the intern who came in with the least technical knowledge. I had never seen cameras like the cameras we have in-house now. So I was really learning, starting at the bottom there. But I just tried to soak it all in. And we got to PA for the staff cinematographers. And on all of their shoots, we got to be their runners at games and watch them work. And that was a tremendous learning experience. And then my boss at the time, Hank McElway, turned to me one day. It was week 8 of that football season. And he turned to me in a van ride and he said, "So you want to shoot football or what?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, then you better get started." So that weekend, they lent out some of their old tape-based cameras and let us, the interns, take them out to practice, and we would go to high school football games. So I think for the remainder of that football season, which was 2012, I shot a high school football game pretty much every Friday and Saturday, and then worked alongside an NFL film cinematographer shooting their game every Sunday.
Now, was that a pinch me moment when he turned around and asked you that? Because you sound like a very confident young woman. So I'm wondering at that point, though, were you like, "Oh, yeah, bring it on," or, "Oh, my goodness, did he really say that?"
That's so funny because I don't feel confident. I'm glad my faking it is working. Fake it till you make it. I think it was kind of like, oh boy, I really have to do this. Like, no one's going to do this for me. I got to get out there if I want to make this happen. And it was just like a good kick in the butt, really.
Yeah. And in terms of your experience then at that point, what did you feel that you needed to really focus on? I keep using this word, but you forgive me. What did you really feel that you had to really zoom in on? That's even better, right?
Full of them. I mean, the most basic technical skill set. I needed to learn how to follow a ball. I needed to learn how to follow action. And NFL Films was still shooting 16 millimeter film at the time. So I needed to learn how to use the RESR3 cameras, and I needed to learn how to load my own film, because I pretty much realized I was training to be one of the top action shooters, like top action shooters. And at that time, those shooters they didn't have ACs. So we would load all of our own mags and download them like during the quarter breaks and at halftime. And honestly, going into my first tryout to shoot with the 16 millimeter, that was what I was most worried about. I wasn't as worried about shooting. I was so worried about flashing my film or just completely botching the loading process. Luckily, I made it through.
So how many different cameras then would you say you have experience with now? Can you just pick up any camera for the most part, and just, spend 5 minutes with it and off you go?
I think that I've spent so much time with a camera in my hand, a professional grade cinema camera in my hand at this point, that I think if you gave me an hour to go through the menus and put it on my shoulder and get it comfortable, I'd probably be fine operating it. But we really primarily work on the Aria Mira and the Alexa 35. So they're the cameras that I know inside and out, complete muscle memory.
Now, we've heard about camera operators and sore shoulders. I've experienced them myself. In terms of your own fitness then and your own core strength, do you work on that, or do you rely on your muscle memory that you're talking about and that, you can stand with a camera as long as you need to?
Mm-hmm. It's both. Again, having been an athlete my whole life, I haven't wanted to give up that part of myself. So since retiring from lacrosse, I've gotten into running. My best friend pushed me into running a full marathon last year. So that was quite the experience. So the running, and I do some lifting on the side, that all contributes to being in shape for the work. But I do think that there's nothing to get you in shape for holding a camera like holding a camera. It's different than any workout you're going to do in the gym, right? Because it's not balanced. You're not standing in like proper positions. I'm often squatting and contorting my body in these ways that just don't look like they should be physically possible. And I'm sure I'm going to pay for it later in my life. But yeah, so I think there's nothing like holding the camera to really get you in shape for that.
Yeah. Don't you love a Steadicam?
I've not used a Steadicam.
But is that something that you would also like to add to your arsenal, so to speak?
I would love to, because I love what a Steadicam can create. I don't think that where I am in my career right now would allow me to practice it enough to become an expert. And I'm a believer that if you're going to have a specialty like that, you should truly specialize in it. And I know not everyone does. And it would be great to at least have the skill set if, we're in a pinch and we need someone. But I feel like I personally would want to perfect it. And we have so much other, ENG work and interview work going on that I don't feel like I would get to perfect it.
Right. I mean, it is a specialist skill, and it's like drone pilots too. Now, I mean, that is a whole specialist area.
Totally.
Isn't it? Yeah. And lots of opportunities for future development, though, if you ever did need to change.
Yes.
And I'm thinking that there must be some very funny moments that have happened in your short career already. That is there anything that you'd like to share with us? The bloopers.
The first one that comes to mind was as an intern, I was quick to realize that as the only woman in the room, and like I'm small in stature. I'm just 5'3". And so I'm strong, but at a certain point, an 80-pound case that's sitting above my head is just not something I should be trying to lift. So I came to realize that there are other ways for me to help in the physical process without hurting myself. So I as an intern, I would often climb into the van that was packed full of gear and be the one to be inside the van, pushing the cases to the edge and handing them down to people. And there was one time I climbed in the van and I took a step back. And I stepped right off the back of the van, fell flat on my butt into the parking lot with everyone around me.
Did anyone have a camera handy?
No one was rolling.
Oh, good. And some of those moments, of course, that you're out there shooting, you have to somehow commit those to memory because they're all part of this life journey for you. Are there any standouts right now where you've had pinch me moments that really I am here and I'm doing what I really want to do, and this is what I love?
Gosh, I feel like when people, it's kind of like a what's your favorite shot type question. And I feel like I never have a good answer. I think, honestly, just like my first game being on a sideline and putting on, we wear these blue vests that signify that we are NFL Films and we have different access at the games. And I think the first day that I was down on the field with two of my buddies who are also staff in the camera department, and we took a picture together on our field, all three of us in blue vests. That was definitely a pinch me moment of like, I'm making it. I haven't quite made it yet, but I'm on the right track. We're always still pushing forward, right, and learning, but I'm on the right track. I'm in the blue vest. That was a cool moment for sure.
I want to come back to the number of women that are doing what you're doing, because it's on the rise, but it's not equal by any means.
No.
You're one of the first at NFL, aren't you?
Yes.
How was that experience for you, breaking into a male-dominated world, Hannah?
It's been really good, honestly. I think I'm very fortunate to be in a department that's very supportive, and I feel like everybody who I work with is like a big brother or an uncle. I think I also got very lucky with timing. Timing has so much to do with with getting opportunities. And I came in at the right time as an intern. I was a camera prep technician for 4 years. And after those 4 years, somebody left the department, and that created an opening for a staff position. And those staff positions are so hard to come by. So I felt very fortunate to walk in at the right time. And then I think I kind of grew up in this department, if you will. I started right out of college, and I think everybody has taken on the role around me of being a great teacher and mentor. And it's just kind of flourished from there. I think the trickier part is moving those relationships, having them grow from a mentor-mentee relationship to more like letting them mature into more of a partnership, and making sure that the mentoring side is comfortable with me expanding my role and my responsibilities, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And that comes with time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Did you experience sexism?
I think I experienced sexism in like very subtle, unintentional ways. Like I've walked onto sets where someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, you must be hair and makeup. Come over here." And I'm like, I'm not at all hair and makeup. Trust me, you do not want me doing anyone's makeup. And there's things like I've showed up to a number of games. We have assistants at games. They're basically media runners. They run our cards and batteries every quarter. But I've shown up to games where a runner meets me outside of the stadium, and then they push, if they choose, they push a cart full of equipment. And so I'm walking next to them, and I've had other broadcast media approach my male assistant and start talking to them and asking what camera they're using. And it's like, I always just kind of stand back and watch and see how long it's going to take for someone to point out the fact that this man they're talking to is an assistant and not the person shooting the camera. And I see this happening with, a friend of mine who I work with is currently the director of our show, Hard Knocks on HBO, for the Hard Knocks training camp series. And I witness, PR staffs from teams coming up to one of the assistant directors constantly, who's a man, and approaching them as the person in charge. And, only then do they point the PR staff in the direction of my director, who's a woman. I don't think anyone's ever been intentionally rude to me because I'm out there as a woman. It's just there's all these false assumptions being made.
So would you say there's jealousy towards your success?
From men or from women?
From men, primarily.
I think that there's a level of discomfort from some of the men I work with that I'm being highlighted for what I do because I'm doing it as a woman, when they are presumably doing equal work, but they're a man, so they're not being highlighted for it. And quite frankly, I'm uncomfortable with the situation as well. It's something I've been working on and trying to figure out my feelings about it and how to approach it. But I think that we do have to highlight women doing these jobs so that other younger women know that they can also do the jobs.
Yes, absolutely. Have you seen more women coming into the NFL and into your world, if it's not just for the NFL, but into the sport as camera operators?
I think so. And it's, again, this is just my perception from when I step onto a football field and I look around. I don't have statistics, but I do think I see a lot more women working as camera operators or boom operators on the field with the team's video production. So, each of the 32 teams has their own in-house video crew. So we see them at the games, and I see a lot more women in those roles. So that's great. And a lot of women who are still photographers. There's still just me as staff at NFL Films, but take that with a grain of salt because there's only 7 of us who are staff in total. And we have I want to say 2 or 3 women who we use as regular freelancers in the cinematographer role.
Now, you mentioned recognition there. I know that you have won awards. What does that mean to you?
Well, the awards that I've won at this point in my career were really, I'd call them a team win. And I would say that I was a supporting character in that team win. So I've been a part of 2 Emmy Award-winning camera crews for Hard Knocks training camp. My first year, I was actually still the equipment manager. So it's wonderful that I'm included as a part of that crew. But I don't like to take more credit than what's due. So I'm honest about that. But that was also a great role for me to be learning in. And then my second Emmy, I was a full-time camera crew, again, on HBO's Hard Knocks, led by one of my peers, Ben Johnson, who is the director of photography. And so I think the future goal is to someday have accolades like that with myself in a leadership position.
Where would you like to see your career go then towards that?
I think it's just continuing on the track that I've been on, but again, jumping into those leadership roles. So this summer, I was the director of photography of Hard Knocks training camp, which was a great experience. And that was you talk about confidence. I think that was a huge step for me building my confidence in what I do, because I think I often feel like an imposter. Imposter syndrome. But so having led a crew of, 8+ camera crews for 7 weeks on the ground for Hard Knocks feels like a huge accomplishment to me. Whether it wins awards or not, we'll see. That would be icing on top of the cake. But just having that been successful and feeling like I grew more confident through those 7 weeks was, I think, a huge progression for me. And outside of football, I would someday love to film wildlife.
That's a dream, is it? That's a desire.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I know you used to shooting documentaries. Is that where you would put together the wildlife, and that would be the dream job?
It would be. Yeah. And I'm telling myself that, filming football players running full steam ahead towards me on a long lens is good training for lions and cheetahs in the Sahara,
It is. Could you see yourself having your own production company then and focusing on wildlife and hiring women?
I don't know that I want to run my own company. Is that a fair answer?
Okay.
I love the camera work, but I'm not someone who wants to be in charge of things outside of the image. But that being said, as a director of photography, I would love to hire more people on my camera crew. And I have been working on that. And working on Hard Knocks, we have camera PAs and ACs with each camera crew, and we got to bring in a lot more women, which was fantastic. And everyone was amazing. So I think that gave me an opportunity to expand that roster of women.
So do you prefer to put DP after your name or cinematographer? Which means the most, right, in terms of technical acknowledgement?
I like both. I'm sorry if I'm not giving you the answers you're looking for, but
no,
I think this is something that I love about my position at NFL Films, actually, is that I have this opportunity to fill both roles constantly, because we have so many shows going on that, 1 week, for an entire season, I'll be, I just finished a 30 for 30 about Reggie White that will be airing on ESPN in the next couple months. But that was a project I DP'd for over the course of a year. But there are other weeks where my peer is DPing their project and I get to go be a cinematographer under them for a week. And I love that because I love having that creative control and pushing my limits, like mentally, emotionally, physically, to be in that DP role. But it's also honestly kind of a nice break to also just be able to go be with my camera and shoot, you know?
So when you were graduating high school and heading off to do this for real, is there anything now when you reflect on that time and that moment in your life that surprised you, that you would have said to your younger Hannah, well, this wasn't what you thought it was going to be. It's this.
Yes. The lifestyle. I think that I didn't quite know what lifestyle I was getting myself into with all of the travel. But then I think, and I think about this constantly because it's this simultaneous struggle for me where I'm like, oh, I'm gone so much. If I go through a really rough stint of travel and work and I'm like, oh, I just want to be home. It would be so nice to just be one of those people with a quote unquote regular job who's home every Monday through Friday and can plan their weekends and their dinners and seeing friends and family. But then I sit at home for 2 days and I'm like, oh, well, would I get bored doing this all the time? So, and I don't think that if I were to say this to my 20-year-old self, I don't think I would listen. You know, I think I want to do what I'm doing badly enough that even if there's this hard part that I struggle with, it isn't going to stop me. I think it's just a part of the gig that, you know, it pays off when you get to shoot something awesome.
Yes, absolutely. So at the end of a shoot now, when you're driving home or driving back to the hotel, what kind of things do you review in your mind?
I guess it depends on the shoot, but if it's an interview setup, you know, I'm reviewing the lighting and thinking, oh, would I have lit it differently if I had more time? Or did I do too much? Or did the faces look okay? Should I have used a different lens? And I think if we're doing more, you know, E&G on the go shooting, I'm thinking about my decision making. And I remember Gretchen was talking a lot about this on her podcast. It's like, when we're shooting documentary in the moment and there's no second chance, you are constantly making decisions. You're making decisions when to move, when to reframe, when to get a cutaway. And if you move at the wrong moment and you blow up a perfect soundbite, I just replay that moment over and over and over again and beat myself up over it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with when you're on a football field. You know, you have to pick the right moments when to move up field. And if you miss a play that ends up being the play of the game, it's hard to forgive yourself.
So, well, that leads me on to my next question, how you define success at the end of the day.
I think there's different levels of success. I think a very basic level of success is, you know, did I make my director happy? And there's that push and pull of when you're if you're lucky to have a pre-production process, or if you're just getting on location and making quick decisions, it's like, did I push too hard for my vision and did it pay off? Is my director happy? Or did I push too hard into a direction that they're not happy with? Luckily, I hope I push in the right direction. And then, so making them happy, getting, you know, did I get the basics of the shots that an editor is going to need to cut a piece? But then there's the personal emotional success, which is, you know, did I walk away with a new shot that I feel was really unique and special and means something to me? Do I have a shot that I can walk away with that I want to look at over and over and over again and admire? That's always very exciting. If you get a shot that you want to keep looking at, that to me is personal artistic success.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I know you have a very hectic schedule now, but one of the things that you enjoy doing when you do have time for yourself is some dog agility with your parents' dog. Tell us about that.
Yes. I found out about dog agility as a kid in middle school, and I did like my 6th grade research paper on dog agility, and I had these little, the Breyer play set of the dogs and the obstacles that I would put out, and I have stacks of books about it, and I would watch the competitions on TV. And I found this dog at a shelter that my parents, and I pretty much convinced my parents to adopt her a few years ago because I can't have a dog myself with all my time on the road. So I visit her as much as I possibly can. And my mom found out that there was these dog training and agility classes just like 10 minutes from their house. So I try and get there on Thursdays to be my dog's handler, and I love it. It's just, it's just a fun escape from the real world, and I love my dog. And it's like this silly lifelong dream I've had of being able to run a course of obstacles with my dog, jumping over and going through tunnels.
What's her name?
Her name's Winnie.
And does she win?
She's not at the level of competing. We are in the very, very basics.
Okay. Tell everybody what kind of dog she is.
She's a mutt, but she's largely an Australian Shepherd Husky mix. She has one brown eye, one blue eye. She's stunning.
And you mentioned also that you like to do the still photography still. So this is also a hobby now, or do you do it professionally as well? I shouldn't assume that this is just for fun. It's
really a hobby. I do some like family photo sessions, but mostly for friends, just kind of it's almost my holiday gift to them. And I enjoy doing that. I feel like that's a very special gift to be able to give people. And I think it's more comfortable for people to be photographed by someone they know. It's a little more intimate. But what I really love is my camera is really my inspiration for travel, and I love to travel. I don't get to travel that often, but one of my best girlfriends and I have done a few big trips. Our last one, we went to the Patagonia region, and we were there for 2 weeks and just hiked and photographed these incredible landscapes together. So that's that. I just think that the camera is this amazing ticket into seeing the world and being invited into people's spaces. That's what I love about it.
And wildlife? Were you shooting that too?
If I see wildlife where I am, when I was in Idaho, I saw some elk and got to photograph them. And in Patagonia, we saw some, I don't know if I say it right, guanaco. We photographed them, but I've not really been in a situation yet in my life where I've gone to do some serious wildlife photography. Someday.
Where was the most exciting location that you shot professionally when you're actually doing your day job, Hannah?
Professionally, I got to go to Tanzania, and we, this is actually very cool if you want me to give the background of this shoot. So there's a football player, Chris Long. He's a former player. He's retired, but he started this wonderful organization called Water Boys, and he raises money to install freshwater wells into these Maasai African villages. And the goal for the organization was initially to install 32 wells, symbolizing the 32 teams of the National Football League. And he's well surpassed that. I think he's, supplied water to over 500,000 people in Tanzania. And then he takes a group every year to visit these villages and see what these women go through to collect water. They're hiking something like 5 miles a day just to bring back a few gallons of water. And it's not even clean water when they get back. So then the group hikes Kilimanjaro to represent the steps that women are taking to collect water in Africa. So we got to go document this organization and the villages and the climb up Kilimanjaro, which was a dream project. That was the most exciting project I've been a part of.
Did you have to train physically for that?
We did. There was 3 of us from NFL Films who went for camera, and we did train, but not nearly enough, to be honest. We trained as much as our schedules would allow for. But it was really, I think, a special shoot because for me personally, I mean, it's special because of what it represents in general for this amazing organization. But for me, it was like this amazing mix of documentary and adventure and telling a story that really matters. And I think I should go back to your question of where I want my career to go. And that's something that I would like to do more of is I really want to tell stories that are going to help impact the world in a positive way.
And that sounds like that would be one of them.
For sure.
So if there's a moment you can sit down with a book, what would you be reading?
Ooh, I read a lot of memoirs. I've actually been reading quite a few memoirs of women who are kind of in my field. And one woman who I really look up to is Lindsay Addario. She's a conflict photographer. And she wrote an amazing book. It's called It's What I Do. And it's all about her journey, kind of getting started as a woman in the field and the only woman and, you know, being out with military and keeping up with them and how she was treated and hiding a pregnancy to keep working. And I love reading these stories because I think as I have my own experiences in a male-dominated industry, it's very validating for me to hear similar stories and thoughts from other women who are much more experienced than me.
So if I was to meet Hannah Epstein in an elevator, what would you tell me that you were doing and plan to do to make a difference in this world?
I think I just want to tell more stories like that Kilimanjaro story. And, you know, my time in Israel was all about documenting the first women's U19 team, which was bringing a sport to girls who didn't really understand that girls could play sports. I think if I could get into the wildlife aspect and be a part of shows like Planet Earth and Our Planet that really make the issues of our planet visible to the average person, I think that would make a difference because, you know, as we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Those films are worth even more.
And it's all about being an artist and having the eye of an artist.
Yes.
Hannah, it's been great fun to talk to you and get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
You'll find a link to Hannah's Instagram in the show notes. And whilst you're on Instagram, I hope you'll give us a follow too and share the podcast with anyone you think might enjoy the show. And with just 2 more episodes to go for season 1, a heads up that in 2024 for season 2, we'll be dropping those episodes every Tuesday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern. I know right now you're used to them dropping on a Saturday, but season 2 will be dropping on a Tuesday. And we have a great lineup of guests for season 2, so if you have any suggestions, do drop us a line to hollowellstudios@gmail.com, or of course you can leave us a message on Instagram as well. We would love to hear from you. And if you're a new listener to the show and you're listening on Apple Podcast, we would really appreciate it if you had a moment to give us a review, because that helps others find the show by increasing our visibility with a 5-star rating. We always love to hear from you. The Art Podcast is a Hollowell Studios production. It's produced and edited by myself, Chris Stafford, and I will be back as usual with another episode next week. So I do hope you'll join me then.